I know we've all been in this situation. We're with a group of friends, coworkers at the water cooler, some family members, whatever it may be, and they're telling you about a vacation that they went on. And it's bound that somebody says, man, wouldn't it be great if we went on vacation, didn't come back? Well, that's exactly what today's guest did, and I'm excited to bring you this episode. Had a great time. But of course, before we get into all of that, I got a couple things for you. First and foremost, Live Reishi. This Reishi rub, I cannot say enough good about. They've been keeping me going for a long time. Just recently, tore up my knee at the gym, put a little Reishi rub on it, put a knee brace on it. By the end of the day, boom. Been on it ever since, over a week ago, not giving me any problems. Check these guys out, livereishi.com. Use a code word TABLE50, and you're looking at 50% off your entire order. And they got a ton of other shit on there. It looks great. Brand new website, looks amazing. And speaking of websites, I would love for you to jump on mine. Walt'sKitchenTable.com has everything you need to know about the show. And if you want a little sunshine in your inbox once a month, sign up for my newsletter. It's right there on the front page underneath my smiling mug. And I'm very excited to announce that soon coming to Central New Jersey, there will be live event once a month throughout this with this podcast. Follow me on social media to keep track of that. More to come. Very excited. All right, let's get on to this show. Welcome to Walt's Kitchen Table, where I feature captivating stories from fascinating people. Well, today's guest, Paul, was on a trip and decided not to come back. He traveled all through Europe and ended up in Vietnam, which he fell in love with immediately. And the stories are endless. And talking with Paul is just awesome. This guy is amazing. Definitely reach out to this guy. And he offers, if you want any traveling advice, he'll give you stuff that the books won't tell you. And that's just not to Vietnam either. That's anywhere, just if you're traveling. Links in the show note, of course. And then in Vietnam, he started some businesses and some fun stories there. Now he's a teacher. And I'm going to tell you the story about his students explaining the Vietnam cucumber is, well, you know what? I'm going to let him tell you all about it. Let's get to it. Look at that, dude. We're live.
Good morning.
Come on, man. Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah,
Good evening.
All right, now we'll go with evening.
Good evening.
So my disclaimer is now everything you say is going to be on the internet.
Oh, man.
All right, we're done?
Yes.
All right. It's what, you're 12 hours ahead of me? Ahead, right? Yeah.
11 with time
11.
change. It's
So
back to 12.
where are you at?
Hanoi, Vietnam.
We're in
north part of Vietnam.
North?
Northern, yes. The capital in the north of Vietnam, the hub.
Oh, it is the capital? I didn't know that.
So. Yeah, I'm not really. Who knows?
Mm.
I only live here. I think, yeah, it's the capital of Hanoi. It's in the north. It's a place that everyone flies into. There is a south, but nothing there.
Oh, so the north is where everybody goes?
Yes, definitely.
Is the south like a black hole down there and like you don't come back?
It's got less to offer and it's more westernized, so people find it less appealing.
No shit. I was thinking the other way around. I was thinking it was
Ho Chi Minh is more westernized, less culture, less Vietnamese culture, less Asian culture. Hanoi has held on to it longer, so it's a little
that's pretty
colorful. Yeah, it's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Have you been? You have not been, right?
No. My wife is extremely interested in listening to this because she loves Vietnam food. So we'll get into that. Obviously, you must enjoy it. When did you land in Vietnam?
3.5 years ago.
So did you go for like a bachelor party and never leave?
I went for a birthday party in Greece, and then I just kept going. I kept traveling.
Man, I was pulling that out of thin air. I was pretty close.
I thought you knew that.
No.
I literally was standing on the beach. I was in Santorini, and I made the decision to keep going. I was the 10 days of my vacation, my birthday trip were up, and I just said, go travel.
Wait a minute.
But I actually just never returned except for to visit. I'd created a new life.
So when you went to Greece, you planned on coming back in 10 days.
I had in my imaginary world in my head, maybe I could keep going and visit some other countries, but I had no plans.
Okay, so you fly to Greece for a birthday party.
Yes.
You hang out, have a good time for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, you're like, you know what? I'm going to keep going that way. And you ended up in Vietnam.
Yeah, exactly.
Was there something that drew you to Vietnam?
No, everyone that I met along the way thought that I would enjoy Chiang Mai, Thailand. And I started thinking, because I met digital nomads and I was kind of getting encouraged, thinking maybe I could live out somewhere abroad. And I got to Chiang Mai and I realized that this is not the place for me. But I just kept traveling, still not realizing I was going to live somewhere. At this point, I wanted to, but I didn't realize I was going to. And I got to Vietnam and I just really loved. Within 15 minutes, I knew I wanted to live here.
Dude, that is awesome. Yeah. I did the same thing, but I just crossed the country, not across the fucking world. Holy cow, dude, that's really neat.
Yeah.
That's an awesome story. And then how long ago? Oh, that was what? Would you say 4 years ago?
So it was December. I left in September 2018 for the trip. And then December 2018, I landed. The first week in December, I landed in Hanoi.
I've been there ever since.
Yeah. And I thought I'd live in Ho Chi Minh because I did not understand the differences in the culture and the weather, et cetera. So I did stay a month in Ho Chi Minh, but Hanoi is definitely much more appealing.
So what we were talking about where the South is more westernized, so that you kind of was drawn to that at first because it was comfortable, right?
Exactly. It was Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, they're both roughly the size of New York City, which is where I was living. So I was more comfortable in general living in a city than a village with
right
or something. So either way, I felt a little bit more comfortable. But yes, Ho Chi Minh was definitely more similar to New York City than it was Ho Chi Minh.
And then, so shit, dude. So when you went to Greece, all you had was your luggage. So a
backpack.
Oh, damn, that's awesome. And then you end up in Vietnam, and you're like, I gotta get a job, right? You end up, unless you're, independently wealthy, and that's none of my business, dude. But that's
So yes, but I quickly learned that the amount of money that you make here or most countries abroad is not equivalent, not even close to what we survive on in the States. And someone had planted the seed along the way of traveling that a lot of digital nomads or people traveling open hostels. So I opened a hostel in Vietnam, and then I opened a hotel, and then I opened a travel agency. I closed all three when COVID started, but I just reopened the travel company. Just reopened it.
So, you just ended up starting a business when you landed. You didn't get it.
It took me 6 months.
So just working, you went and got a job and a place to stay and
no job.
No job?
It's so cheap to live here. You have no clue how cheap it is.
So what you have? Obviously, you had some cash from.
But let me explain. How little it costs to A, live here, and B, to start a business. It's not the same. It's not the same. The highest expense was probably an unnecessary expense, but something I felt comfortable with, and that was using attorneys. Because they don't really use the legal system. But I spent money on that to make sure it was done right, but people don't do that. It's not
normal. They just put a shingle on the front door and say, come on in.
Basically, basically, yes.
And
So
then,
it's possible. It's possible. It's very affordable to do it.
yeah, but like then government wise, or is there a bunch of,
Oh man.
is that more on the street stuff? Like,
So no politics, but now do you want politics, Vietnamese politics, or just no U.S. politics?
well, no, but like
things.
Yeah, I totally get that. And for the people that just are listening, I stay away from politics and religion on the show.
We all do. We all do.
Yeah, well, we try to, right?
Yeah,
and then,
exactly.
but like the politics of opening a business, right?
Right.
Like in here in America, you got, most people understand the lengths that you have to go through. Right. Sure, it's pretty simple, but you're telling me it's even simpler? Is that a word? Simpler in
it's a
Vietnam.
Word for us. It's simpler because you don't have to jump through the same hoops that you do in. There's no. So my background is hospitality, so there's no there's no sanitation courses or health inspectors coming by to check out the.
Yeah, but is there a guy that on a moped that pulls up and his buddy gets off the back and comes in is like, you give me X amount percentage?
Absolutely. Not percentage, just so there's a lot of this is a whole different episode, Walt. This is I'm not sure if we want to. Someone's going to come knock on my door in like 30 seconds if I keep talking.
No, it's all.
They do. Yeah, there's a level of corruptness here that is equivalent to what was existing in, say, New York City in the 70s.
Okay.
So we had it. We had the same under the table briberies. You pay your way.
Dude, that's how the real world works.
Right.
I don't care who tells you what or what they talk about and try to keep everything quote unquote legal and all. Man, that's how the real world works.
Right.
Hey man, I'll give you some cash, you do this. I give you some cash, you don't do this. Perfect. Next.
Right.
And it's an agreement, just like everything else. So, but
it's more obvious. It's more blatant here. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's more common.
Okay. All right. And then so would you open first? Would you say the travel agency?
The hostel first. Hotel second, travel agency third.
So the hostel, you go in and you find a location. I imagine somebody owns the building. You're like, hey, can I rent the space?
Well, I took over. I bought it from somebody.
So you bought the building?
I bought her house. I bought her business with everything included.
Oh, okay.
So and she bailed. She took off. So the second I paid, I was supposed to take over, in a couple of weeks after. But she said, tomorrow morning, you've got some guests. You have a full house. They're expecting breakfast. And this was, the second I paid, the second we closed, instead of saying in 2 weeks like we planned or 3 weeks, whatever it was, she said, you have a full house and they're expecting breakfast.
Good luck.
Yeah, it was like 6 hours later. It was late at night that everything actually happened. And it was you'll be there in 6 hours cooking breakfast. And some of the staff is not coming back because new owners. So you only have 2 people working there. So yeah, I just showed up, cooked breakfast.
Dude, she knew she was bailing. She had no intention to be there for the 2 weeks. Yeah,
of course. But it's great. I love the experience. I loved out of nowhere, you're thrown into a business.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I know it, right?
You don't know the system, nothing. And you're in a different country running a hostel, just out of nowhere. You just have to pretend.
Yeah, at this time, yeah, everything's fine. I have
Good morning. Yeah.
I have 8 hours of sleep. I've owned this place for 6 years. I know exactly what I'm doing.
Eggs, yes, of course. Eggs.
Well, I mean, your hospitality training and culinary stuff.
Yeah,
that probably helps, huh?
Definitely. Yeah, I didn't go to open a a dentist's office or something. It's what I know, so it's definitely easier. But yeah, but that just got my feet wet, and I said, bigger hotel. Let's find a hotel.
Dude, that just gets, man, I got goosebumps. That's amazing. You're 6 months in, right?
Yeah. 6
and
months.
you got a business. The lady bails on you, and how many guests did you have coming in the next morning?
That's probably 30 something.
God damn, that's awesome.
But it's it's different. It's everything's more casual, so you don't have to worry about as much as you do in the U.S. You don't have the inspectors coming by, and it's just kind of take care of what's there. Take care of what's there. That's pretty easy.
Okay, and then the travelers, they know what to expect, right? Or they kind of go along with it.
Well, I didn't. Yeah, they roll with the punches as well, but I didn't realize. I had not stayed in a hostel. I didn't really even know hostels. The day I decided to keep traveling in Santorini, I went up, worked my way to the airport, and I saw a hostel on the way, and I decided I'm making these changes, taking these steps, and I saw a sign for a hostel, and I stayed in my first hostel.
What was it? Everything you expected?
It was nothing I expected. It was so clean. It was pretty nice. It was like a dorm, quasi like a dorm, but it was nice. And when I went in there, I crashed. No one else was there. I did wake up to someone else throwing up, which is kind of, I started thinking this is what I was expecting. But that was it. I was up before everyone else, out the door, so I didn't really get the experience. But I was so intrigued about why anyone would ever stay in a hostel. I didn't get it. Why would you, as a grown adult, want to sleep in a bunk bed in a room with bunk beds with strangers and you don't know? Why would you put yourself? So I just didn't understand it, which is why I stayed in one, because I wanted to understand it. So this is all unraveling. I want to start learning. And then I went up to Athens, and then I stayed in another hostel, and then I really got an understanding, because that was horrible. It was one of the worst experiences. And I sat on the edge of my bed the first night, and I knew there was a hotel next door. And I just sat there with my hands, my head in my hands, going, just go to the hotel, just leave. This is the place smelled, and people are arguing, and just there's mosquitoes, and it's cold. It's just a bad place. And I kept saying, just go. But I stuck it out. And it ended up, I stayed in that hostel for 3 weeks. In that hostel. Because people kept, the next night, there's people that were arguing left, and some people that I started engaging in conversation arrived.
Okay.
And the environment changed. The smell, they kind of stayed. But it was just like a very unique situation. And instead of me sitting at the end of my bed, talking myself into, or having that inner dialogue of go, stay, I ended up listening to these stories of these travelers, and I couldn't stop. I wanted to be I was the last one who left the room, because I wanted to hear the stories of everyone that was in the room. And I would find out when they were coming back, and I would be the first one back, because I just wanted to sit there and listen to them and listen to all the experiences and travels. And I didn't leave until one of them finally said, "What are you doing? You're just sitting this." They didn't realize I even left the hostel, because I would be there when everyone left. I'd be there when everyone came back. So they thought I just stayed in the room the whole day. So one of them finally said, why are you in this room all day? You're in Greece, like, go. And then I explained, and then they just still encouraged me. Well, okay, well, you should still leave. You've been in Athens for 3 weeks. And then I started traveling more. But they encouraged me. They inspired me a little bit to keep going.
Now, what did you find out about that hostel? Man, what's the word I'm looking for? Culture? Is that would that be a good way to describe it?
Yeah, definitely. I started understanding the different types of people who travel. I definitely started analyzing everyone who was there. why they were there, what they thought they were there for. It was pretty obvious. You'd see someone with a backpack, but they weren't experiencing anything. It had nothing. I thought people that stayed in hostels were these world travelers with no money. That's just what I equated. I was like, why else would you stay in why else would you share a room? Unless you didn't have money, because I didn't get anything else out of it. But there's no correlation. There was no similarity between having a backpack, not having a backpack, money, no money. There's people that stay in hostels. Well, there's two types: social hostels and not. The people that stay in social hostels are not traveling because they aren't there to experience the culture. They're there for the social atmosphere.
Okay.
It's a cheap place to stay, but they are choosing to stay and socialize with other people like them. And then the people that are staying in hostels, other than that, not social hostels, not party hostels, they are there because it's a budget place to stay.
Yeah.
Take care of your finances. That's your choice. So those are the two types, but they had nothing to do with whether or not people really wanted to travel and experience the world. It's the exact same people could be in a hotel, the exact same. So where you stay had nothing to do with that. But what did I find from the experience of the people? It was, I definitely started picking apart why people chose the hostel, because there was a perfectly fine hotel right next door that was the same price. It was the same price as a hostel.
My first guess would have been saving money, right? But like you said, it's the same price.
Because abroad, hotels are so cheap. You can stay in a hotel in Vietnam, depending on what your level of necessity is, for a month for the price that you can in a hotel in New York. Yeah, it's just not. Shit. So a hostel, you save some money, but is that is the extra $5 a night really worth the inconvenience of someone snoring or waiting in line for a bathroom? Or
right. So what do you think? It boiled down to experience?
For most people, cost. For most people, cost. Definitely.
Yeah, because if it's like you said, if it's $5 a night, that's every night for a month. That's a lot of money if you're on a tight budget.
Yeah, if you're traveling for months, budget's a budget. Everyone has one. So
yeah,
take care of the budget.
Now, I've never been in a hostel, and people listening, I don't know if they have or not. If you have, I'd love to hear about it. But are they like cookie cutter? So it's just rooms with bunk beds and one bathroom on each floor, and that's kind of what I think.
There's all types, and that's what I learned. I really did not understand it. My takeaway from hostels was so misunderstood, because I would just dismiss if someone said they stayed in the hostel. I would say, "Why? That's it. I'm done talking to you. I don't understand." So staying in one was on purpose to help me understand, because I could never. Why would you stay? Why would you sleep in a room with strangers as an adult? But that was just me. That was my lack of knowledge. Sure. So they're all different. There's hostels that have private rooms. There's hostels that have bathrooms within the room, en suites where you share, 4 people. Sometimes it's 16 people per room, 20 people per room. Sometimes it's some sort of industrial, like a school gym where it's open shower. It's all types.
No shit. That's cool to know. Because the other thing I think of Hostel is obviously the B-rated slasher movie that they made.
I miss that one.
Yeah, I want to check that out.
But it seems like I don't know if it's streaming in Vietnam. I'll look for it. The most common, the best selling rooms for me were always if there was 4 to 8 beds. Mm-hmm, so that tells me that's what most people look for. They also seem to look for non-co-ed. So the females seem to prefer the female only.
Sure.
Or co-ed. Males do not want all male. They want the co-ed.
Yeah, sure.
Co-ed. Because most people do stay in them for the social aspect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They want to meet other travelers or people that are traveling.
So the one that you had, how was that set up?
It was not social. It had a private room. It had between 4 and 8 beds per room.
Okay. And how many people could you hold at once?
Like 40 something.
So I could have came to your place and got a private room, or stayed in a room with 4 people, or stayed in a room with 8 people.
Right. And you get charged accordingly. You reserve it just like you would a hotel room on booking.com or any other website.
Damn. Uh-huh. What's all right, dude? You got to tell. You got any crazy stories about what happened in your hostel?
What happened to it?
No. What happened in it? You got any crazy stories?
No. No. Most are just travelers. Most of the stories are similar to the stories that we all see on the internet now. It's like Karens. They're that kind of. It's just a bad seed.
Yeah, sure.
It's a traveler who is looking to argue. One of those.
Yeah, we all run into those, don't we?
Especially hospitality.
That's even. Well, I'm in the moving business, so
same.
Whew, they do not come to me in a good mood. So, but man, I gotta come back to the Greece thing. Yeah. So now you're in the United States. Of course, I trolled you. Of course, I trolled you, dude.
New York City.
But you had some education as a chef, right?
Yeah. Johnson and Wales, and education in hospitality from East Carolina.
So in your dome, you're thinking that you're going to go down this direction of running your own kitchen and hospitality? No? Oh, okay.
No, in Athens, in that second hostel, there was a guy who was running an internet, something to do with websites. And that was the first conversation I had about possibly, or any options I might have for living abroad. And he said every job translates to living abroad. And he said, asked what mine was. And I said hospitality. He said, well, not all of them do, which was very discouraging because immediately I thought I had no chance. But I did learn quickly that the pay scale is much different abroad. And I pretty much eliminated the restaurant business or hospitality business. I started trying to think outside the box of what I could do. Just randomly, what could I do?
So let me see if I get this right. You went into those two, hospitality and chef, as knowing that you wanted to get a talent or a occupation that could take you abroad.
No. I lost you somewhere. I lost you.
Okay, so what I was thinking was, here in the United States, I'm
working in hospitality. Yes.
You're in a chef, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Chef, manager. I owned a restaurant at one point.
Okay, and because then you go to New York City, try to hone that and make it, get going on your feet, right?
I'm just living in New York, normal life.
Yeah, far from normal.
In New York, I'm just doing my thing.
Well, at that time, yes, you were doing.
Yes, at that time, I'm doing my thing.
And then when you're sitting there doing your thing, do you have interest of going abroad?
No.
Okay.
No. Then I didn't have a passport, Walt.
No.
I'd never traveled. I didn't get my passport and the backpack that I still use. I didn't have either one of those until the week I left. A couple of days before I left for Greece. I never traveled. I didn't like traveling. I didn't understand traveling. I didn't get it. I had no desire to travel. Because I didn't understand the difference between vacationing and traveling. So what I always didn't like was vacationing. I never understood going with the same people that you see every day to a different place. Like a beach is a beach, and you're with the same people, and you're drinking these cheap margaritas and whatever. I never really got that. It wasn't that it was horrible. I'd rather do something else.
Yeah, no, we agree. We agree here in this household.
So I didn't get that. I didn't understand what there was in traveling. So luckily, I traveled because now you can't stop me. This is such a great experience. You unleash the dog. It's such a great experience.
So I think where we lost it,
I lost you. Yes.
Yeah, I think so now you're in Greece and you're talking to somebody and you're saying, I'm doing this in New York, and they're like, that might not.
You have no hopes of living.
Perfect. Okay. Whew, there we go. So you're like, shit, I got to figure out what I want to do so I can live abroad.
Slowly. And I'm thinking it, I'm talking about it, I'm putting the feelers out of, is this an option? Is it a viable option to continue? Can I find a life abroad? Yes. But still no plans. It wasn't until I started actually looking for a hostel and then realizing, is this even possible? Because they don't have the realtors aren't the same way. Nothing's the same. And it seemed and I was looking in Ho Chi Minh and I was like, this is impossible. I can't even find a realtor. Nothing's the same. The mail system's not the same. Nothing is the same. And you wouldn't think that. You would just think, everything operates the same as it does in the US. They just speak a different language, but it's not like that.
Right.
So in Ho Chi Minh, I started looking at realizing maybe it's a possibility, even though I couldn't even get a grasp on how much it would cost for the process. When I went to and decided to live in Hanoi, I found more people who could make it possible and made me understand it's a much simpler process. And that's when it started coming to fruition.
And then you find your hostel by like word of mouth, or is there like the back pages or something?
Back pages is a better description.
Okay. All right.
Someone just asked me yesterday on Twitter where to find short and long-term places in Vietnam. And I didn't respond with this full answer, but it's not this again, it's not the same. There is no, Douglas Elliman or Corcoran website where you just go on and there's someone who's going to help you. It's not like that. And because most of the country doesn't speak English, and they don't even use websites the same. They don't use the internet the same. They use more Facebook pages and groups. They sell more things that way than they do for websites or the internet in general. So it's very difficult to navigate. Someone had found something on a website. I had met a real estate agent who, they're so shady. And the whole thing is convoluted. But I was using this mix of different sources of information and just walking around. And eventually it all came together where I was looking at place A and I started seeing an overlap where what I would read on this one website in Vietnamese, with someone helping me, and what this agent would show me and what I would see when I would walk around, I started seeing these core group of places that would be available that all three would be similar for all three. And that's what I started focusing on. Because the ones outside of that common thread were all extremely unique as an offer. Prices were way off or just shady. So one of the places I found, I had discovered walking, and then I realized it was an actual real place that someone was trying to get out of. And that's the first one I took.
And then she bails on you. You cook breakfast first thing in the morning. Good thing you know your way around the kitchen.
Yeah. It's a great experience, though.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I still can't wrap my head around it. I mean, I'll be laying in bed tonight going, that motherfucker, damn, dude. He just lands and is like, figures it out.
Yeah, 5 a.m. But I was so when COVID hit here. We can talk about COVID here, right?
Yeah,
when it hit here, we went into lockdown. The whole country was just done. We're not letting people in. No one's out. A lot different. So business, we call it pause. You can pause a business. But I was so thankful because owning a business here is so difficult because I don't know Vietnamese and they're not going to change their system because I don't. So every bill, every invoice, everything is Vietnamese, and it's again done different. So when they come to collect your phone bill, they come knocking on your door. They just come by, and they want cash. So it's all different. The way they collect the bills is different. They literally they come around. They have cash in one hand because they're going door to door and invoices in the other. So I was so thankful because you have to micromanage to death to have any sense of control over the businesses. But it's impossible to micromanage because you don't understand the language.
Right.
You can't. Sure, that's a laundry bill. Well, how do I know? How do I rectify the fact that all the sheets are yellow today? You just can't. You can't micromanage. And they're like, that's a great example. They said, oh, well, the contract states we will wash them, but it doesn't state that we'll use detergent or bleach. It's like, oh, why? What? And I deal with, in hospitality, that dealing with linen companies was similar. They're just worse here. So there's a lot of parallel. Everything's parallel. But I was so thankful because it was very difficult. But at the same time, that wanting to be an entrepreneur at heart, that's what you want to do. So when the opportunity, because the travel is open again, the flights are open, to reopen the travel company, I know it's a pain, I know it's difficult, but I want to do it. I want to bring on the pain. I
was going to say, watching you talk about it, I'm like, yeah, dude's going to do it.
He's going
to do it.
And the hotel is still like it's there. I want to reopen. It's so difficult, but
now the travel company's going now, right? It's back up and running.
It's back up and running. It's I'm going to do a new location this time. Because that one was part of the hotel. It was in the lobby. It had the ground floor of the hotel. And
okay.
So now I'm trying to figure out where to reopen this spot.
Now, will that be set up to where, like, if my wife and I want to come over there and do something, we can get a hold of your travel company and you can arrange things? Is that the type of travel company that you're doing?
Yeah. We do A to Z. I partnered up with a guy who's been doing it for 9 years.
Okay. Does he speak Vietnamese?
And English.
Yes.
So what I realized, I was advised, I met someone who owned a Vietnamese guy who owns a coffee shop in Ho Chi Minh, who kept saying, before you open, this is before I opened the hostel, he said, before you do it, you've got to learn the culture. And I was like, well, how do I learn the culture? There's not like a book that says learn the culture. This is how you do it, dummy, Vietnamese culture for dummies. But so setting up the business is different. I'm setting it up different so that I have less micromanaging. So it can be more, owning a business or working somewhere should be fun. It doesn't have to be crazy fun. It doesn't have to be like silly string fun or hula hoop fun. It just needs to be a little bit enjoyable. So I'm structuring it a little bit differently so I can do less micromanaging and just find the fun part of it.
Okay.
So far, so good, except for the website issue that we were talking about earlier.
Now, as of right now, is the hostel open or closed?
Closed.
Okay.
Closed. I want nothing to do with that.
You stick a for sale sign on it?
No, it's this is back to what we were talking about with how things are set up differently with the attorneys. You can, God, it sounds so bad. You can just be done. You can just be done with it. Okay, contracts are useless here.
No
Useless.
shit. Like, so what about the building though? Like,
she has, the owner of the building has done nothing with it, but she can. I told her I want nothing to do with it. I told you I spent money on attorneys, making sure everything was legit. As far as I'm concerned, I felt protected, but you don't have to protect yourself because no one goes to the courts, because the courts, God, I'm going to
yeah.
like,
dude, it's like
Mr. Kennedy, are you in there? So it's they're useless. So it takes years to even get into the system, and then it's not about the law; it's about the judge.
So then you go to the lady that owns the building. Hey, listen,
I'm done.
I'm done. I'm leaving. She goes, cool. See ya.
Yes, but I don't say it because we don't speak the same language.
Right. Yeah, but like,
yes,
but you had an agreement, and she, because of the culture, she's like, okay, and then she's going to put somebody else in there.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
she has the right to, and she can. I don't even go by there anymore, so I'm not 100% if she's done anything with it. But last I heard, she had not. I can't imagine because there's no travelers. There's no one in the country.
Right. And now you got the travel agency. Is that up and running?
It's up and running.
Okay. And then what the hell, dude? Then you're gonna just make a cookbook?
Yeah, it's that is in the last. Well, see, okay. Here's the thing: is my desire. Okay. Oh, let's back up. I love owning businesses. I just love it. So during COVID, everything's closed, and I get this opportunity to open a restaurant. And after you've heard me talk about the businesses is horrible. It's great. It's horrible.
Hey, let's open a business.
Yeah. So and because things are done differently, someone had this space and they had to have someone in it, or the police would take it. You have to keep it occupied, or someone just steals it from you.
Okay.
So they need someone in it, and because of COVID, their previous person had left, and they just want someone in there. So they offered it to me for free. So of course I was like, oh yeah, let's do it. Restaurant. Even though I knew a restaurant was a horrible idea, but I like opportunities. But I quickly talked myself out of it and said, no. But I already started working on recipes. All this time I'm thinking nonstop about inspiring people to travel, and not in some sort of convincing the world, but trying to find a voice or platform where I could kind of encourage somebody, because I didn't have a passport until I traveled. And now you can't bring me back kicking and screaming. Like it's just such an experience to travel, especially by yourself. So I get it now. So what I did was I started making this cookbook because I had the recipes, I had photos, and I was thinking of maybe making that some sort of inspirational tool to encourage people to travel. I don't know if I told you this, someone had asked if you needed a machete to get around, like to cut your way through Vietnam.
Yeah, sure.
Because we don't learn about Vietnam. We learn about the war, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so I thought this would be a great introduction to the culture and just pique people's interest in the traveling. That's how this came about. Yes, the cookbook's that. It's more of a enlightenment than it is. Yeah, the recipes are great. Yeah.
And good. Dude, I absolutely love your theory on why, like what you're trying to do with the cookbook. I think that is amazing. Because what's the best way we connect? Food.
There's different ways. You don't have to throw it in someone's face like this is what Vietnam is. I don't want to write a history book. And I had a discussion with this guy who is a well-known, respected author on Vietnamese history, who does all of his research online. And I had such an eye opener as to how we all obtain information that is so misinformation is not isolated to what we all complain about in the US right now. It is a global issue on all topics.
Oh,
All topics. All topics.
We could talk till 4 a.m. my time, and if we got into that conversation.
But leaving, I'm just for this isolated topic. This guy was telling me things, and he has multiple books on history and information on Vietnam. But it took everything I had not to tell him that I can't believe, not to correct him. I just couldn't believe that his information was coming from online and not from being here. And he's a successful author of books on Vietnam.
Wow.
And I have lived here for almost 4 years. I started teaching after the day I closed the last business. So the hostel was the last one. The day I closed it, I started teaching. And the book was not part of this. I was working on things, but the book was not part of it. But I'm intrigued by everything. So any question I would have, my classes are 50 students, 50. So I'll interact with over 1,000 students a week. So if I have a question about why do you guys do this, I have an audience of over 1,000.
That's great.
Plus meeting everyone in general, because I'm very inquisitive. Thousands and thousands of people through the hotel, travel, and hustle of finding out what really is the answer to the question. Why do you guys? Independence Day. Vietnamese think they celebrate independence from the U.S. Period. But there was no independence from the U.S. But that's their reality. So there's a lot of that. That's what they're taught. Independence Day is independence from the U.S., but there was no independence from the U.S. But that's what they celebrate. So there's a lot of that information that's just very misconstrued amongst everybody, both online, the way they taught, reality. It's very confusing. So with the book, it's not. I didn't want to get into that because it's very confusing and there's a lot of debate about these topics. So I kept it all non-history, nothing that's debatable. I don't care. It's all lighthearted cultural information because
that's great.
I want to get into that. I don't want to open Pandora's box of.
Yeah, there's enough of that going around to begin with, man. We don't need more of that.
Yeah. That's
now,
amazing.
when is that looking to come out? Because it's not out yet, right?
No, and it's one of the worst. All my experiences, all of them, worst experience ever. Let's do another one. It's not what I thought it was going to be. It's very time consuming. So it's in the developmental editing stage.
You self-publishing?
No.
Okay.
I'm not. This is through. Yeah, no, I'm not. I looked into a lot of because again, I've no one who guided me through this, but from my understanding, I think that works for some people, but that's not the way I have decided to go.
Okay. All right.
But it's a long process. And they had me write the intro. I don't know if this is going to make it to the final cut because there's so many editors. It really it takes a village. There's so many people involved. I don't know if it'll make it to the final cut, but my intro literally is I never thought I would be writing a cookbook, and I wish I never had. That's because it's such a painful. I thought it was going to be here's some recipes and some photos,
right,
and splinters of colorful, pieces of information about the culture. Here you go. It's ready. I designed it, and it's not like that.
And then you handed it over and said, "Here you go," and they go, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah, because it has to. You're not selling it directly to, and this is where the self-publishing is good and bad. I'm not selling it directly to the customer. I'm not selling it to anybody. I'm selling it to the person who wants to sell it to the person who wants to sell it to the person. So you have to meet their standards and their likes.
Yeah.
So when it goes through editor A, well, they have their own opinions. Editor B has their own opinions. Literary agent has theirs, publishers. And then you go start over again. Well, they have their own editors and they have their own designers.
Sure.
So who knows? It's probably going to end up being about a different country by the time it's done because they make so many changes. It'll be like Turkey. What do you mean Turkey? I was in Vietnam. Why is it? Yeah. Why is that?
Africa. What?
Why is that Africa?
Yeah. Where'd that come from? Cheeseburgers.
I know, right?
Now, what do you teach, Bim?
English.
Okay.
English.
Now, did you fall into that job too, or did you go out looking for it?
By this time, I'm hungry. I'm living here, and I say, "What can I do? What should I do?" I'm not going to have the businesses. I don't know how long this thing's going to last with this lockdown. What do people do? And then I ran across the fact that expats teach. I got my certification online that day. I sent out 40 something resumes before I even got my certification. Within 24 hours, I had pretty much 40 interviews.
Wow.
And I realized something's wrong. That's a red flag. There's either an extreme shortage of teachers or there's something's wrong. You don't send out 44 resumes and get 40 instant.
Yeah.
So I realized you're not really teaching here. You talk slower and louder is all they want you to do. You're not really teaching. No offense to the people that are teaching here, but when you teach abroad, it's different. I was going
to say. So you're thinking of the way we were taught growing up in a school, and it's not that way there.
Well, there's different types. There are people who come here with their masters in education who have been teaching for years, and they'll teach at an international school, and they have a perception that they are teaching differently. It's all what you are actually doing. Are you teaching? Or are you not? Anytime you have a career where someone is competing with or your peers don't have to have the same requirements, there's a lot of controversy as to who's better and who's doing it right. So anytime you have especially a trade, so culinary, you don't have to be a good chef you don't have to have gone to culinary school to be a good chef. But so you'll get a lot of, well, you're not a chef because you didn't go to culinary school, but they can perform equally as well, if not better, just learning now, especially online. So we have the same problem here with teaching. Here you can get an online course, same day certified, and you're competing with somebody who spent a lot of money getting multiple degrees teaching in the US.
And so and then the institutions that are looking for said teacher have
different requirements because a lot of them, they charge independently. So a lot of them just want this is going to sound horrible. They just want that white face.
Mm-hmm. As an English teacher, right?
Because the parents want that. They don't speak English. They want to know that their students are being taught, and they judge by the color of the skin. So everyone, which is why I got so many responses, is because I'm from the US.
Yeah.
So that's what they wanted.
And the thing is, as we talk about it, obviously I don't understand because I've never been over there, but I can get it that we are looking at their culture through our eyes, and that just doesn't line up.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So when you're saying, hey, I got all these responses because I'm looking for an English, teaching job, and I'm from the US and I'm white. Well, in their culture, they're not looking at, they look at it like, hey, I'm a white dude. All right, cool. Let's bring the white dude in. Well, around here, hey, let's bring the white dude in or this guy in or this guy in. Whoa, wait a minute, you're being racist. Well, no, I mean, I need a white dude.
Well, racism, I've learned, exists everywhere.
What's that?
It does. Racism does exist everywhere.
Oh, sure. But the thing is, though, this is now I might be talking out of my ass here, and correct me if I'm wrong. Of course, there's like where you are within that culture, there's certain racism, but they're not looking at you that way. They're looking at you as almost, oh, geez, I don't even know how to. I had it right there at the end of my tongue, but they're looking at you. Hey, man, I don't want a Orient or Asian guy teaching English when I can get a white guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that's not because of them. That's what they know the parents want to see.
Oh, I was talking about the parents.
Well, because as the owner or manager of whatever school or center, it doesn't make sense for them to hire somebody not knowing qualifications, only to hire them because of where they're from or color of skin. For them, it doesn't make sense. So It's very obvious that they want us to be the face of the classroom. And you will see on many occasions where the school or center wants you to be there when the parents pick up the kids.
Oh, wow.
It's not to make sure they get home safely. It's so you're seen.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. Is it a good experience? Do you enjoy it?
Absolutely. The experience, definitely.
Kids are great?
Kids are great. The kids are great. They're, it's different culture.
Yeah.
So they're not used to, and I learn every day.
What do they say? The best way to learn is to teach, right?
Yeah, it's such an eye opener, and I love having that sounding board. So because I'm, like I said, I'm inquisitive. So every question I have, I get to, let me see if I can find, so here, you can't even cook the same way because you buy everything. My experience is going to be not living in a foreigner or expat area, foreigner being people not from Vietnam. I don't live in those areas. I don't go to those areas. They're completely different. The experience is not the same. I live in Vietnamese local areas.
Okay.
Completely night and day. I don't same prices. Like they have grocery stores. I don't even have those. So everything I buy is from the market. It changes every day. They don't know what they're selling. I don't know what I'm buying. Completely different world. But in buying cucumbers here, like every fifth one is so bitter you can't eat it. Just horrible. And this week in class, one of them had cucumbers, one of the students, and I said, oh, great, because I'm always asking questions. But this is my segue. Tell me why cucumbers are so bitter here. I don't get it. But they drew me this picture of a cucumber. And they're saying, well, you have to peel it from the light side to the dark side, and you have to cut the ends off. But just, so I take this information, I ask another class. So they accept it. It's normal to be bitter, and this is the way they get around it. But my original experience was just they're so bitter, I don't even want to eat it. I take a bite and I cringe, thinking, is this going to be a good bite or a bad bite? Good, bad, or every bite of the cucumber. But they're used to it. It's normal. And they didn't want me to be afraid of the cucumbers, so they drew me a picture of what they do, because they don't shy away from them because they're bitter. Bitter's okay for fruits and vegetables here. It's a normal part.
Sure.
Not because of the cucumbers, but because they pick fruits early when they're unripe. And they use salt because they travel better, they last longer. Mm-hmm. And then the ripe ones they'll use for dried stuff. So it's a different world with food. So they drew me this little picture of how they deal with bitter cucumbers. They still dip it in salt to hide the bitterness, but that's the best way. But it's those little things that you just wouldn't think about. My initial reaction to cucumbers was like, this is horrible. Why do I want to buy it? Their take was, this is, how we deal with it. And I'll draw you a picture in case you don't understand us.
So do you look at cucumbers a lot different when you're at the market now, or what?
This is just this week. But I took that information and like I do with everything else, and I still talk to other people. So that's now I'm awesome. Still in that debating stage of, does it really work? And I have some people saying, yes, no, that's crazy. Someone else was saying, yes, we always cut off the ends and we have to change the knife and cut off another end because that bitterness actually extends to the next knife.
Yeah.
So I'm learning more about cucumbers. It's just crazy.
That's awesome, though.
But man. I love this. This is what I love. And I love my audience, the fact that I can get to the bottom of the information, because it's everyone has a different opinion. They're not wired here to research, and they don't have the same access to the information because they don't speak English, and none of the information is in Vietnamese online. So they're not wired to use the internet. So information varies so greatly between people, night and day.
Boy,
so
that makes good.
A long time.
Yeah, but that makes good conversation too.
It does. It does. But you're constantly asking the same question to everyone.
Now, do they do that to you as well? Do they hit you up about questions about our culture?
Not as much, because they don't. They're not intrigued by it. They ask because they don't research. They don't use the internet the same as we do.
Yeah,
they don't read. They don't read. They see things in the movies and they think that's the way it is in the U.S. and it ends there. So there's no debate, no conversation. They think we have lions or tigers as pets. They think we are racists, including against Asians. So they have these takeaways. The country in general, has different allies than we do. So their opinions are biased when they do hear.
Sure.
So if we talk about, say, a war, they have a different takeaway, but there's no need to research it because that's not what they would do.
They do.
So if they hear about something like a war, they have one thought: it's we're on so and so side. Done.
That's it.
Like no need to even think about anything else.
That memory just popped up with me when you said that. My wife and I were traveling down south in the United States, obviously. And
where'd you go?
Virginia and North Carolina. And we went to a museum about the Civil War.
Oh God.
And it was from the South, right?
I know where this is going. Yes.
Dude, it was crazy. I was like, wait a minute. Did I? And I'm like reading the stuff, going through it. The way they had it set up was nice. A beautiful museum.
Right.
And I was just sitting there going, that's not how it happened. Wait a minute. Did it happen like that? And I wasn't told that? Or I wasn't taught that? But wait a minute. This map. Wait a minute. And we just started questioning everything. So I get what you're saying there. I mean, you're talking on a bigger scale, but same theory.
Yeah. I used to live in Charleston before I went to New York. And I went back there as a visitor, doing tourist things with someone who had not been there. And we did a walk through of some plantation home. And they're screaming, "The South will rise again." Score. But they weren't in costume where they were acting out this part.
No, they were just
they were just a tour guide going, "The South will rise again."
Oh, so
crazy.
So
but people think that.
Yeah. The show Dukes of Hazzard, right?
Yes.
So there was a place, and I love it when my wife does this. When we're traveling, we're like, okay, we're gonna have some lunch, and she jumps on Yelp, starts looking, and we've gone to some great places, we've gone to some not so great places, but most of the time they're good. And she goes, "Hey, this Cooters is down here," and I'm like, "Cooters? What? Cooters? What?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's like something has to do with Dukes of Hazzard. We're going." And it was literally on the highway, so I mean, we literally drove right by it. So we go in there. Dude, it was crazy. My wife's like, "Whew, okay." And this guy goes, "Hey, there's a museum in the back." I'm like, "Oh, I'm always about a museum." And he goes, "It's a perfect replica of the garage Cooters from the show Dukes of Hazzard." I'm like, "All right, I'll go check it out." So I'm back there walking around, and this guy comes up and he's like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's beautiful, you know." And he's talking about it, and long story short, he goes, "Well, I'm Cooter." I'm like, "No,
Really?"
I go, "The fuck you are." And my wife has left by this time because she wasn't comfortable, and I was like, yeah, and I was like, "No, you're not." He was like, "Yeah," and then I'm like looking at pictures, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, "Holy shit,
Was
this
it him?
yeah,
Scooter?
right." But the reason I bring this story up because he's talking about the show in a 180, Paul, 180. He's talking about how the South is going to rise again and this is going to happen. And I was just like, okay. I was like, okay, well, man, look at the time. Gotta go. And I just walked away and he was still talking. I was like, this is fucking. But anyway, so that reminded me of that story when you said the South is going to rise again.
Yeah. So yes, I think travel or experience in general, it doesn't have to be Vietnam, but
No.
What I do realize, I won't stray off because this is also a lot of these topics are something we could talk about for weeks. But I realize the common thread to all this is education.
100%.
It's people believe what they hear and no researching about anything. It's just there's a lot of opinions and there's a lot of realities. But that seems to be the common thread, and especially in Vietnam, it's because they don't research. They're told something,
and that's what it is,
and that's the reality. So it's their reality versus, say, the guy who's researching, writing the book, versus what I'm witnessing right in front of me, my eyes. Like, it's not true. It's just not true. So there's a lot of realities, and there's a lot of research, and I don't think people everywhere, or none of us, are wired to research and investigate everything.
No. Now, did you run into some issues creating your book with that? Because you said it had to go through some multiple.
I did. No. I haven't yet with those, but I kept all the information as lighthearted. I'm going to keep using that word, lighthearted, as possible.
I'm a big fan of that word.
So when if you look at the website, you'll see the splinters of information I'm talking about. I just put random sentences together. This is what I saw today. It's just sentence, random. The guys who pick up the trash wear pastels. Like, there's no arguing. I'll send you a picture if you want. That's my truth. This is where I encountered the issues with the other author of the history of Vietnam. I had information on, I think I've taken some of it away, not because that guy was correct, but because the book that wasn't the purpose of the book. It's not a history book. It was to be more fun. I did not want to get into it, and I respect people who like him, and I didn't want to get into it. It wasn't about, and it didn't matter if I included the information or not. No one would question it. So it was never about right versus wrong. It was keeping it lighthearted.
Yeah, and the theory that I like to have is, to what end? So if you did bring it up and talk to him and get into it with him, to what end?
Right. Yeah.
Why not just move on?
Right. And at no point was he trying to make a stand, and I never took the stand of, why do you care? It was more, it's just unnecessary. It's just not. And at the same time, I'm going to respect his information, because his reality, amazing information that I actually obtained from him that I have since beaten to death with people that I know here. But it's very similar to the Independence Day of, well, they're celebrating independence from the U.S., period. They're being taught that, period. It's just the way to.
Yeah.
And the one person who did not, the one Vietnamese person who understood was someone who was schooled in France.
Oh, okay.
And he said, in front of my other Vietnamese friends, he goes, I don't have the same information. I have a whole different outlook and opinion of everything that my local Vietnamese friends have, because I was taught
different
from a different perspective.
Yeah. I can see that.
So he's like, it doesn't matter to him. It doesn't matter. He's celebrating Independence Day. They're independent. It doesn't matter if they say U.S. or France, or it doesn't matter.
Yep. Damn, dude. Well, when this book comes out, you got to let me know so I can spread it around.
I will. How's everything in Jersey? Good?
Good, really good. But I got to get you out of here, dude.
All right.
We got to shut this thing down.
Let's shut it down. It's late there. Yes.
Yeah, well, but I like to keep them at a certain length. But I know we're just scratching what's rolling around in your dome, dude. So you got to come back, especially when the book comes out.
Definitely. We'll do.
Put that on the calendar. But take a few minutes, man. Holler at everybody here. Let them know where they can find you. And, here's your elevator pitch, man. Go ahead.
Elevator. Like last minute test. You can find me on my website is paulbkennedy.com. And you can always find me on Twitter, Paul in Vietnam. Those are the best two ways to find me. And honestly, if you have any questions about travel, not necessarily booking with Vietnam with that company, if you have questions about what size backpack should I bring or should I do this, I will definitely guide you in the right direction, because I definitely want to encourage everyone to travel.
That's awesome. And your Instagram's a lot of fun, man. So
I don't even remember that one. Paul B. Kennedy, I think, with a couple of underscores.
I'll have that stuff in the links in the show notes. But flipping through your Instagram, that's some awesome pictures, man. And that's another subject. That's another subject we didn't touch on. So, but we'll bang away at that at another time.
Sounds good, Walt. Thank you for having me in your kitchen.
I appreciate it, man.
Talking to you.
Same here. That is a lot of that, dude. You got a hell of a story, buddy.
Come join me for a bowl of pho in Vietnam.
I would love to. Talk to you soon, man.
All right, Walt.
Yeah. Woo, man, talk about some stories, right? I know you have questions, and Paul would love to hear from you. Jump over in the show notes and connect with him on Instagram for sure, and he'll talk about everything and anything, food, traveling, everything. Get a hold of him. Tell him I said hello when you do, and I'm going to get you out of here because I know you got shit to do. But before you leave, don't forget, liverishi.com. Use the code word TABLE50, and you're looking at 50% off your entire order. Jump over to my website, waltskitchentable.com. Sign up for the newsletter and keep track of me on social media for the live events coming to Central New Jersey. All right, man. When I say have a great day, the motherfucker is silent. Till next time.